Welcome back to Grimerica Outlawed Roundup coming at you this week, January 15th, 2025. Flying through the new year already. I think we're like, not noticing the days getting longer yet, but it's coming. You can see it sort of coming. It's dark after 5 o'clock, soon it'll be, or bright after 5 o'clock, soon it'll be bright after 6 o'clock. And spring will sprung. I mean, we're 2 months from it being like some days are springy, you know? It was +8 today, so I was like, God damn, I could get into this. It could
I don't
still
know.
be
It still feels dark here. I mean, I think it was 8:39 in the morning. 8:30 somewhere. It was getting light out this morning.
the mornings are a bitch. And you're farther north than me. You're like Tony North.
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, this week we are coming at you with This Is Boring post National Canada.
So much is going on, dude. I cannot believe it. What a crazy time. In some ways, I look forward to doing this. It's like because there's so much to talk about. It's like we have to like pare down, because we don't want to talk about the same old shit that everybody else is talking about. But some of it we have to.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're probably right about that. Some of it we have to. And it was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Where's that from again?
Charles, it's got to be Dickens, right?
I'm gonna put out a note in our chat. I forgot.
Yeah, The Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means. Duality.
Yeah.
Contrast of extremes.
Yeah. Well, that's what it feels like. It just feels like there's two incompatible cultures right now. Still, it seems like I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I mean, who knows if this Israeli thing gets peaceful? That could help things out. I mean, Trump must know that like he has to fucking come through with peace, like to bring everybody together. That has to be the case because no normal people want. Well, I don't know. Got to be careful these days. I mean, most.
Oh yeah, no. You got to watch because it's like we're cutting in chunks where there's a giant chunk of people that there's probably people who don't give a fuck, people who kind of give a fuck but don't know what to do, and then there's measurable chunks of people that want the other side fucking annihilated. That's the crux of the problem.
And I just want no violence.
Shouldn't even be surprised. Shouldn't even be surprised because it's been that way for 5,000 fucking years for all of recorded history. I mean, it's the Old Testament. They're talking about exactly this.
No, it's disappointing. It's hard to start realizing that because you're like, man, this is just a big battle.
No, it's just par for the course. I mean, when you do realize that, in some ways, it's liberating because it's just like, oh yeah, well, it's just same old. Just now, I have to see it.
Yeah, but now there's no solution though either. There's no like.
Never has been. Never has been. The solution is not seeing it on my phone. That's
I mean, here's what
not having it on my television. That's the only difference between now and 1,000 years ago is ignorance is bliss. We just kind of left that side of the world to their own devices for a long time. We were better for it.
I know now we're so connected. We just see I see everything going on, like disclosures happening within the next 72 hours. Israel is going for peace talks or whatever. Like it's.
It's funny to hear you talk about the culture war at an all-time high because, we're at whatever, because around here, man, it's just like in my day-to-day, it's like the entire culture is just like collectively breathing a giant sigh of relief. There's like a light at the end of the tunnel, it's
well, that's what I mean. I know I wish that would just sort of bleed over though into the other side that still is having a hard time with the shift, right? They're hanging on to the woke mind virus a little too tight. Because I see it with people I know, man, and it's like they're really upset about the annexing. They're really upset about
right. There's lots of everyone. It doesn't just take the woke mind virus to be upset about the annexing.
I know, but
that one got both sides. I mean, what's the virus for the other side? Because I mean, there is two viruses. The other one's just not quite as bad as the other one, but there's something that.
Oh, dude, I don't want it to go to swing too far, man. It can swing too far and get total like warning.
Remember when we used to talk
on the other side can be a lot worse.
Yeah, when we used to talk about it years ago, it seemed crazy, but now you can start to see what I was talking about. You can see those fucking points and things. It's like, oh yeah, if these guys get things, and then at the time though, you're like, well, they wouldn't do that, and now you're starting to see it like pipe up over here and over there where they're talking about doing it. It's like, oh man.
But then I can't tell what's real and what's organic and what's like driven by these algos, like what they're pushing towards us, right? Like, because some of it, all it takes is a couple of false digital agent provocateur flags, and then they can get everybody all wound up.
That's why I stay off X.
Yeah. Well, here's what's going on. Can I just do a little like
shit show?
Can I do a little entremont or whatever, or can I do a little like get us into this?
Wouldn't that be between two segments, not just to start off? So you don't start off with
this is the start. Well, what's the start then? A little appetizer. Here's a little appetizer. Here's a little appetizer. This is you're gonna love. This is all happening like within the last couple hours. So
we appreciate your time.
And oh no, hang on, I gotta change my speaker over. I think here. Oh, we should have done a test before.
Is that Donald Trump Jr.? I can hear it.
It's Donald Trump Jr. Dude. This guy, Ross Coulthard, he's the UFO guy. I mean, I remember listening to his podcast with probably with Dave. Dave, we've had him on the show. I can't remember. Dave Zed. On the way back from CAC, driving the bus with the whole crew going back to the airport. I think it was the Vegas airport. We were listening to him. And some people say he's a shill, but he's an investigative journalist from Australia that seems to know where a crashed UFO is or something. So is
that David Zed?
No, Ross Coulthard.
Oh, I was going to say not some people. I've said that.
I know. This is him. So
we appreciate your time, and as this breaks, I'm sure we'll be talking again in the not too distant future. Thank you, Ross.
A pleasure, John. Good to talk to you, and have a word with the old man for me, please.
I'm definitely going to do that. Like I said, you know that I'm interested. It was the one, if I had one question, that was the one I wanted to know. So maybe we'll finally get to the bottom of it.
Well, do me a favor. Get the answers for us. We all want to know.
I'm working on it.
So there we go. I mean, that's just a little like the end of the clip with Donald Trump Jr. and Ross Coulthard's going around X. Journalist Ross Coulthard uncovers covert alien aircraft retrieval program. Okay. So this tweet here says those were the words of him during his latest talk with Donald Trump Jr. on UFOs. The question is, if he goes ahead with a plan, will President Trump be able to avoid disinformation and misdirection from some of these spooks running narratives on the public and Congress? Yeah, I agree. So I just thought we'll play this too. This is only like another 40 seconds.
With a great deal of the reason we're starting this podcast now, rather emergently here today, is because we have a group of people who are in the process in the next 72 hours or so who will be coming forward with a great deal of information and evidence related to the UFO and NHI or extraterrestrial issue. And I think the public is going to need to have a source of perspective and context and analysis to go to. And so I feel that this is the time for me to start a podcast like this. We're going to be eager to let everyone, put the word out that we're doing this because I think without the context and interpretation, understanding, there'll be too many opportunities for the disclosure of this information to be manipulated, go sideways. So, the reason we're starting this.
Oh yeah, he's doing another prediction, right? 72 hours disclosure.
Yeah,
UFO whistleblowers will be going public within the next 72 hours.
I have a prediction. Is this starting a new podcast?
He's gonna want
money. He's gonna want money.
Hey, yeah, we can't give you that. We can't give you the goods until you sign up for Patreon.
$9.99 a month, motherfucker.
Yeah, something is happening over the next few days. Whether or not the community and public think it's significant is another story. I mean, dude, I'm
something's always happening over the next few days.
No, I mean, this is ramping up. It is ramping, and because Trump is, it's so weird timing, right? Because Trump, the planets are aligning in like 10 days exactly. You've seen all that 7 planets are aligning. Like, how often does that happen? I think it's very rare, right? And then
no, it's not rare. It's not that rare. Nah, this is
what
happens like once every 3 or 4 years. I
don't think so.
I ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, ask your assistant.
Oh, awesome.
But then Trump's getting inaugurated, and then all this UFO stuff is ramping up at the same time as all this other stuff. I don't know. It's just weird. It's just amazing to see. So, and then I've got lots of Canadian stuff. I've got some, I got some bitching. People are upset in Canada. I'm gonna try not to get too negative, but I got some complaints to read.
Every 50 years, it says.
Okay, well,
a 5-planet alignment is more significant.
Well, what about a 7-planet?
A 7-planet alignment, yeah, that's every 50 to 100 years.
All right.
Roughly. I feel like it should know. I mean,
it's like supposed to be an exact science by now.
Simon Chapman.
How are you giving us a 50-year error rate here? Or it's so funny.
That's got to be the average. So sometimes it's probably like 20, and sometimes it's probably between those two. I guess it's not 50. It'd be between 50 and 100. Okay. Well, I'll go with my post-national Canada piece. Let's go. I mean, we need a time machine jingle. Let's go in a little time machine. Go back in time.
Diddle. We'll just do like who was that again? That Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Let's see how this little experiment is going. The Canada experiment. Is this the world's first post-national country? Well, if you suggest that they become the 51st state, I would say that they become very non-post-national very quickly.
How did you know? Did you know I stumbled across a thing that Justin Trudeau said, that the post-national today? I stumbled across it.
Well, he said it a long time ago.
No,
it's from a long time ago. So here we go. When Justin Trudeau said there's no core identity, no mainstream in Canada, he was articulating a uniquely Canadian philosophy. So as 2017, let's see how the experiment's going, and then we'll check in with how we're feeling about it.
All right. Okay.
As 2017 begins, Canada may be the last immigrant nation left standing. Our government believes in the value of immigration, as does the majority of the population. You think that's still true? We took in an estimated 300,000 newcomers in 2016, including 48,000 refugees, and we want them to become citizens. Around 85% of permanent residents eventually do.
Permanent residents? So what do you mean? So that when they come in and become permanent residents, then they become citizens? Well, how many of those people become permanent residents?
Resident would be a citizen, basically, you know? Like that's what a lot of people are in the States. They don't get they get permanent resident. So let's go. The Greater Toronto Area is now the most diverse city on the planet. This is 9 years ago, with half of its residents born 8 years ago outside the country. Half of its residents born outside the country. Half of its residents born outside the country. Vancouver, Calgary, Ottawa, and Montreal aren't far behind. Annual immigration accounts for 1% of the country's current population of 36 million. Now it's what, 42?
I think so, yeah.
Canada has been overpraised lately for going about our business as usual. In 2016, such luminaries as Barack Obama and Bono no less declared the world needs more Canada. The Economist blared, "Liberty moves north. Canada is an example to the world." So,
and then what happened 8 years later? I mean, really?
Here we go. Wait, by 2030, it's projected to be 100%. So there are practical reasons for keeping the doors open. Starting in the 90s, low fertility and aging population began slowing Canada's natural growth rate. 10 years ago, 2/3 of the population increase was courtesy of immigration. By 2030, it's projected to be 100%. The economic benefits are also self-evident, Graham, especially if full citizenship is the agreed goal. All that settlers, Canadians who are not indigenous to the land, need to do is look in the mirror to recognize. That's a nice little throwaway line in the middle of it. Little fucking self-hating white dude. Need to do is look in the mirror to recognize the general happy end of an immigrant saga. Yeah, because the Indians are loving it, bro. Our government repeats it. Our statistics confirm it. Our own eyes and ears register. Diversity fuels, not undermines, prosperity. The remark made in he added, here we go. So here it is. The Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, articulated this when he told the New York Times Magazine that Canada could be the first post-national state. He added, "There's no core identity, no mainstream in Canada." The remark, made in October 2015, failed to cause a ripple, but when I mentioned it to Michael Bach, Germany's Minister for European Affairs, who was touring Canada, he was astounded. No European politician would say such a thing. He thought it was too radical.
He was like, "We're fluid."
A European would think
fluid.
that thinks it's radical.
Yeah.
For a European, of course, the national state model remains sacrosanct. Never mind how ill-suited it may be to an era of dissolving borders.
Well, this is a good setup for the bitch session I'm going to have right after this to see how it's been going in the last 8, 9, 10 years.
Yeah. So
what's this about the French? You want to read them about the French?
No, it's not worth getting into. I'm going to get down to the just the last few paragraphs, and then we'll jump ahead back to we'll get back in the time machine. I don't want to spend too much time on the fucking Guardian, you know? We're still working on the language. The same Canadian who didn't appreciate being told he has no identity might rankle at being called a citizen of an incomplete nation. The American and European citizen, too, may find all this chatter about inclusion and welcome ethereal, if not from another planet, given the events of 2016, in which the U.S. elected an authoritarian whose main policy plank was building a wall. Britain voted to leave the EU in large part to control immigration, and right-wing political parties gleefully hostile to diversity may soon form national governments, including in France. So none of this raw populism is going away.
This is all from 2017 still, right?
Yeah. In 2017, especially as it gets further irritated by the admittedly formidable global challenge of how to deal with unprecedented numbers of people crossing national borders, with or without visas. But denial, standing your nativist ground, doing little or nothing to evolve your society in response to both a crisis and less obviously an opportunity, these are reactions, not actions, and certain to make matters worse. If the pundits are right that the world needs more Canada, it is only because Canada has had the history, philosophy, and possibly the physical space to do some of that necessary thinking about how to build societies differently. Call it post-nationalism or just a new model of belonging. Canada may yet be of help in what is guaranteed to be the difficult years to come. Year to come, he says, but I'm assuming he meant years. Okay, let's jump ahead to today. Which one should we do here? Okay, where are we at? Where are we at 8 years later?
No, it's I guess it would be 8 years, yeah.
It's the right time to rethink post-nation Canada.
Oh, this must be because Carney's in the wings.
There's reason enough for Canadians to be hopeful, even optimistic about the future, is tempting to despair in light of the problems like inflation, ever worsening housing affordability, and a possible tariff war with our biggest trading partner. But Canada has good reason to believe in itself. The U.S. president-elect is particularly taken with the idea of Canada becoming the 51st American state. Trolling aside, Donald Trump's Canada ambitions are more a compliment than a threat, and an indicator of the strategic importance of our vast country. So the post-nation problem. In 2015, at the beginning of his tenure as Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau stated that he sees Canada as the world's first post-national state, and that there was no core identity. Post-nationalism can be defined as the process by which countries and national identities lose their importance relative to supranational, and global entities. In other words, globalism over nationalism. Many other Canadian politicians and leaders shared the same reverence for the idea of a post-nation. The allegiance to global initiative should trump national interests.
Oh my God.
Once national ambitions were declared, wheels were set. Once post-national ambitions were declared, wheels were set in motion to make it a reality. Heavy emphasis on global commitments informed domestic and foreign policy objectives, tied as they were to treaties, initiatives, and benchmarks that weighed heavily on international obligations. Uncontrolled immigration policies stressed the nation, while initiatives in the name of taming climate change, like the Paris Accord and others, undermined our critical resource sector and overcommitted Canada to an unrealistic energy transition. Globalist agendas have an altruistic premise, which takes into consideration the interplay of nations to attain a better global governance. They make the case that a cohesive, world-inclusive approach to governance would be of maximal benefit to mankind more broadly. Organizations that favor globalism, pursue international cooperation, but often confuse cooperation with subservience. Importantly, they are not elected by the voters, who have little to say in these initiatives but feel the brunt of their impact. Globalist ambitions are naturally at odds with those of sovereign nations, whose primary duty is the welfare of their own citizens. Western nations, Canada included, are seeing a surge in nationalist sentiment among voters who feel unfettered globalization does not serve their country's best interests. Traditionally, a government's job was ensuring the prosperity and protection of the voting citizen.
Wow, what a concept.
Yeah, while maintaining an interdependent but self-serving relationship with international partners. Putting Canadians first does not necessitate the abandonment of international obligations. In fact, a prosperous Canada would have far more value to offer internationally.
Right. I mean, I just wanted to ask you before you finish this off. When you read that other part about basically I would call them the parasitic managerial class, like, do they believe that it would work? Like, that it would actually help Canada? Like, did they not see that it would destroy us? It's almost like they think they're too smart for their own good or something. Like, it's just unbelievable. Were you not going to finish off the last two paragraphs?
No, it was just kind of a blah blah. But yeah, well, I mean, part of it could be that it's like you're trying to fix an unfixable truck while it's billowing down the highway at 140 miles an hour towards the cliff.
No. I'm talking about, did they not realize the truck would be billowing down the road at that?
Yeah, I think they did. But if you're going to give them any credit, then they just realized it too late. And that's why they're just trying to cram in. That's why they crammed in 6 million immigrants in 9 years.
No, but now there's a whole bunch of other issues. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm not thinking of the other stuff that gave them their supposed reason to do it. I'm talking about the actual destruction that it caused.
Well, I don't know. It depends. You could be so woke that you just assume there's no difference between us and Indians with an IQ of 78.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's not even about that. It's just about like managing it properly with the right speed and the right,
Maybe there's just no managing it. Maybe you just have to have the kids because you can't cram these people together at the end of the day. Because I'm not even a Christian, but I'm still at the end of the day not super interested in living in any of the nations that aren't Christian nations, like are not like founded on those principles.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it should be slowly. Like, it was going fine to me in the 70s and 80s when we had a couple 100,000 a year or whatever. Like that.
I don't know. I mean, you could maybe comment. I don't know where you were at those times, but I wasn't in like downtown Toronto or downtown Calgary or maybe.
Yeah, well, I was in Richmond and it was basically in Asia,
already,
Asia.
Right?
Yeah, and Surrey, and which was already Punjabi or Sikh or whatever it was. So I mean, I was already, but it's the rule of law and the rules-based system, right? If you're bringing people over, like, they have to follow the rules, just like. And it's the same thing that I'm pissed off about crime in general, right? Like, I'm an ex-addict, right? So I knew that I was afraid of getting arrested for doing stuff that was illegal, right? We need that again. We need people to be afraid of getting arrested. They need to hit bottom, right?
Rock bottom, baby.
No?
I agree. Speaking of rock bottom, after years of self-inflicted erasure of the Canadian identity, the 51st state push serves as a wake-up call.
That's what I was wondering. It might be a wake-up call. So interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
flags were bad. Like a few years, Canadian flags were bad a few years ago. Now it's
Canadian flags were bad too. I mean, I'm old enough to remember.
We showed all this, and what happened?
I'm old enough to remember when a Canadian flag meant you were a racist.
That's a good meme. Have you done that meme yet? I mean, we got to do that meme. Have you seen it?
You're the meme maker.
Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. No.
Okay, we got to do that because that's so good. Yeah. Just a short few years ago.
Whether President-elect Donald Trump's campaign for Canada joined the funny thing is I still think Trump's just trolling us. And the fact that the entire country is getting riled up just makes it even funnier. I mean,
it really highlights the problem, right? It really highlights the problems.
I bet he's cracking up. He's fucking cracking up. I mean, it started as a joke, and then like all the politicians are getting all riled up. But here's the problem: now these pricks are making threats.
No, dude, the North America TechNet is a thing. I mean, they have wanted this, so I think it. I don't think. I think it's interesting that Trump would wait till he was elected, and now he's throwing it out there. I think he wants it. It's not a joke. It's not a troll. They want it. They want. Look at what's his name? Who's that Dragon's Den guy? He's talking about one currency, like he's talking about like a medium sort of thing, I think, right? Like, they don't have to become like right away, but we're going to combine currencies. We're going to do a bunch of things. Like that's what he's pushing for.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Share resources and like, open things up a bit.
They'll start with a resource agreement. But the problem is Canada's got resources agreements to figure out with its Indians.
Or how about, or with themselves? I mean, how about the transfer payments that are happening? I mean, you could say in some regard, those are resource agreements that are not good. Like, how about some provinces start pulling their weight?
No, cut them loose.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. Okay, go ahead.
So, whether Trump's campaign for Canada to join the United States is a negotiation strategy, a passing fancy, or reflects a genuine belief, it has provoked a defiant and fiery never from Canadian politicians and public figures across the spectrum. But the backlash against the idea of becoming the 51st state exposes a deep contradiction where in recent years there's been systematic effort to erase the Canadian identity and founding history. This eruption of patriotic fervor is taking place in a country which has been the subject of a statue toppling campaign directed against its historical figures, more than a dozen from 2020 to 2022 alone. The targets have ranged from Queen Victoria to Egerton Ryerson, a pioneer of public education in Ontario, whose statue at what was formerly Ryerson University, renamed Toronto Metropolitan, was torn down and beheaded by a mob of demonstrators in 2021.
What about the 100 and something churches that have been burned down too?
Well, that would be less of a patriotic thing. This is more talking about the nationalism sort of angle of it. So the most common target has been Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald, whose statues have been removed by city councils or pulled down by protesters as police stood by in Hamilton, Kingston, Picton, Baden, Victoria, Charlottetown, Regina, and Montreal. Vigorous discussions of all aspects of national history, including Macdonald's role in the residential school system, is part of a healthy democracy. However, this all-out campaign to erase a founder's memory strikes deep at uprooting a nation's being. Sir John A. Macdonald was a staunch British loyalist and fervent Canadian nationalist who was a key figure in uniting the British North America colonies and Confederation and blah, blah, blah. In 1891, blah, blah, blah. So,
hang on. Thus a nation that
where?
There's a couple paragraphs from where you started. Thus a nation with its I don't know.
Thus a nation that has watched the cancellation of many of its historical heroes finds itself ironically consumed once more by the same deep patriotism that animated and inspired these heroes. More interesting still, many perhaps are waking up to the reality that slogans such as inclusivity, which in fact were used to exclude people, and historical aspects found undesired to the anti-traditional thinking, were what got us into this present situation where people are questioning what the Canadian identity is. Inclusivity, the desire to strip away anything that might potentially offend the sensitivities of the few, is reflected in such absurd instances as a BC government writing guide which cautions against using the term British Columbians because it may exclude Indigenous people who do not identify as British Columbia, along with newcomers and refugees.
What a great example.
We can also see this in the federal program unveiling of a new passport design in 2023 that emphasized Canada's diverse landscapes and people and removed historical images of the fathers of the Confederation, Vimy Ridge, and Terry Fox. Similarly, internal documents have revealed that the Canadian Navy is discussing replacing the Heart of Oak, their historical marching anthem, with something more inclusive. Controversies over old Navy songs and symbolism in passports are debates over a more fundamental question. Do we value and wish to preserve certain particular attributes of our specific country that differentiate us from other countries? So, the commitment to inclusivity has been put to the test by the 51st state proposal. If our national identity is truly inclusive to the whole world, would it not logically follow that our identity could be extended to encompass a political union with our neighbor, the United States? For the vast majority of the country,
that's a really interesting point, right? It's just one more step towards globalism. You want to be global, you don't want an identity. Well, here we go. We'll just become part of the whole.
Yeah. So,
for the vast majority
of the country, this is a bridge too far. The past few weeks of backlash have revealed that Canadians remain convinced that we have a distinctive identity worth preserving,
or not.
That we are more than just an inclusive blank canvas. We are a nation, a people with our own history, culture, and virtues. Recognizing that we do indeed have a unique national identity to fight for should spur Canadians to remember our forefathers who endowed us with many of the institutions, values, and heritage that make up this identity.
Well, I mean, I don't really like how this guy didn't write, or this person didn't write what was the current state of, like that there's problems. Like there's a bunch of people that want to leave because they've wanted to leave for the last 4, 5, 8 years, whatever, since things are getting out of control, not sustainable.
The sentiment Canadians feel towards their country is subtler and more understated than in most places in the world, but it took an external provocation for many to realize how deep their love of Canada really is.
No,
what they have allowed to transpire.
Well, this is now just
in the erasing of the the country's roots. There's some truth to that, man, because a bunch of the people that hate the thing just still refuse to see that leaving Canada is the only path to maintaining freedom as long as possible.
Right.
A couple of them are coming around lately, but the initial shock took a month and a half to wear off.
Okay,
I swear they're only doing it because they're fucking making a living on being what's the word where you just disagree with everything all the time?
Contrarian?
Yeah, they have to be contrarian to whatever,
Right. Well, I mean, take this with a total grain of salt. This is just something to think about. It's taking what you said now and throwing it to the extreme, sort of the other side. But then I've got some sort of bitching and raving. Are you done your segment on that, or?
I'm done that segment. Yeah.
Okay. So stay frosty, white people. So this is when you mentioned the white people in our identity, right? In the coming months, the system will start backing down on a few woke issues due to concern about lack of participation of white men in the upcoming war. So this is like a Q type post, but so I don't necessarily buy it, but it's good to sort of put your mind over to the possibility on this side of things and then come back to some sort of reality in the middle. They know the diversity mutts are disloyal cowards and are incapable of winning a war. They will first use their good goys like Joe Rogan and Musk to lay the groundwork for certain ideas to be allowed to be pushed back on. They know white men are checked out of participation in society and conflict. And they know they've whipped white men too hard recently with a lot of the woke nonsense. So they will roll just enough woke nonsense in time in hopes of remoralizing the patriot white men to go fight in a global conflict. Important. They still want to genocide Western white men. Don't be fooled by certain concessions the system will try to make. They still very much hate you, but need you to fight their war.
The whites.
Yeah. Interesting. Because I was thinking about that with what was making me think about that. Oh, I think the whole Middle East thing. I was like, this is, or was it? What was I thinking of? I was like, they want another war here. They're pushing for it. But then to see this peace talk here is positive. Hopefully that stays. But I'm trying to remember, was it Syria or was it something that was happening there? But something made me think like, oh boy, like this is coming around. The pendulum is swinging too hard, and they're going to suck us all into a war, a new war. So
tell me again why Alberta shouldn't join the States.
What is this here?
This is a chart of the annual crude oil exports by province to international destinations. So you can see here where all of Saskatchewan's, which is not a huge number, and all of Alberta's, which is 3.358 million barrels a day exported to. So what the point I'm pulling this chart up for is it becomes pretty apparent that there's only 2 provinces that really,
and those are the 2 that are most likely to get along, like to fit. They would fit. Just make Saskatchewan and Alberta a state and forget the rest of Canada.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I mean, I don't really have any comment on the chart. Does it say something up above? Well, here I'll read the verbiage here. So, okay, snapshot. This is from the Canada website, the government website. So, almost all Canadian crude oil exports went to the United States in 2023. Crude oil exports continued to grow in 2023, reaching a record high of 4 million barrels per day, an increase of 3% from 2022. This growth was supported by record high Canadian oil production in 2023. In 2023, crude oil exports amounted to 81% of the country's total crude oil production. These exports were valued at $124 billion, representing 16% of Canada's total export value. The United States remains the primary destination for Canadian crude oil, receiving approximately 97% of Canada's crude oil exports in 2023. The remaining 3% was exported to non-U.S. destinations, including the Netherlands, United Kingdom, Germany, Spain, France, Norway, Italy, and Hong Kong. Alberta, Canada's largest oil producer, is also the largest source of crude oil exports to the U.S. In 2023 alone, Alberta contributed 87.4% of the total volume exported to the U.S., followed by Saskatchewan with 8.9%. So if you add those 2 numbers together, you get about 96%.
So I thought more crude went overseas, or was it refined oil that goes overseas then? Like, don't we sell a bunch of oil?
We buy oil.
We buy oil.
Overseas, I think.
So how much of that crude comes back to Canada to refine then? Quite a bit, right?
I don't know.
Because that's the weird part, is that we actually have to send it down there, don't we, to refine it, and then we bring it back?
Well, we can keep reading if you want. Here we go. Here's some fun facts. In 2013, crude oil exports range from 75 to 82% of the country's total crude oil production. Crude oil production statistics include condensate, whatever that is. Following crude oil, passenger cars and light trucks represent the next largest export category at 9%. Alberta predominantly produces heavy blah, blah, blah. Canadian oil production increased from 3.5 million barrels per day to 4.9 billion per day in 2023. It doesn't really give us that statistic. Kind of tells us where it's going. But, they say we could cut off selling the oil to those guys, but I don't know what happens. What are we gonna do with it?
Well, we will refine it ourselves. I mean, we should be refining it ourselves. I mean, this is part of the problem, right? We're not self-sufficient enough, right?
Well, we just have. My assumption would be that if we refined all the oil, we would still have millions and millions of barrels a day.
So our refined petroleum products imports rose by 5% in 2022 to 478,000 barrels per day. So we bought refined, but it won't tell you if it's coming from the States or not, apparently.
We make our own gasoline here.
Well, is it just the crude that won't? Some of it can't get refined. I think it's the bitumen or the crude or something that they say has to go down there.
Oh yeah, it could be. Well, I think part of the problem is that's just where all the pipelines go.
Why Canada would rather export oil than refine it. That's from 2014. So I don't know.
What does it say? It's probably better that it's old.
Canada has no identity. No, I'm just kidding. Canada has always been known as a hewer of wood and drawer of water for its reliance on natural resources for economic growth. And nowhere is this more apparent than the way the country handles its extraction of oil. Despite boasting one of the highest proven oil reserves in the world, second only to Saudi Arabia at 175 billion barrels, a high percentage of Canadian crude is shipped across the border for refining in the U.S. This has led to charges that Canada is selling out its vast oil resources to the U.S. and failing to uphold the national interest in ensuring that refineries are built in Canada, with the benefits accruing to Canadians. In recent years, these voices have been amplified by the Canadian government's strategy to build new pipelines and expand existing ones. So that talks about the Keystone and all that. It says the Energy and Paper Workers Union estimates that 18,000 Canadian jobs are lost for every 400,000 boils of bitumen that are exported. The opposition NDP has called for a national discussion on how to develop new refining infrastructure. They say would create jobs and bring in tax revenues, but has not said how they would overcome the economic challenges that have so far prevented new refineries from being built. Those challenges, it turns out, are daunting. The cost of a new refinery is pegged at $10 billion and would take years to construct. A new one hasn't been built in Canada since '84 or in the States since '76, although new refineries are in the works in Michigan and Illinois. A couple of years ago, BC newspaper mogul David Black raised a few eyebrows when he proposed to build a $25 billion refining complex in Kitimat using feedstock moved through a pipeline built with support of Native groups, many of whom oppose the current Enbridge proposal. So much for refineries built by Canadians for Canadians. So they say another major issue is excess refining capacity. While Canada only refines about a quarter of the oil it produces, so there you go, it refines more oil than it consumes. That means only newly constructed refineries would be refining oil for export, not for internal consumption. Well, that's a fact I didn't know. Did you know that we refine all the oil we need?
I knew that we did in Alberta. I didn't know about the rest. So anyway, that is interesting. Thanks for that, buddy. Okay, moving on. Let's just keep tugging on that. So okay, let's go with this. Let's keep going on this segment. I got two things we can do here. We can start with this one to sort of lead into the next one. More Canadians than Americans think Trump isn't serious about Canada merging with the U.S. Poll. You want to guess at any numbers?
50-50.
A plurality of Canadians and Americans perceive U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's stated ambition to transform Canada into the 51st state as a display of bravado rather than a serious proposal. A new survey suggests, but a notable number think he's serious or aren't sure. 52% of Canadians and 44% of Americans polled in a cross-border survey by the Angus Reid Institute said Trump's threat is simply showboating. But 32% of Canadians and 22% of Americans are taking the 51st state comment seriously. And 16% of Canadians and 32% of Americans said they are not sure what to think. I don't think that reads the same as the headline, but some Canadians are worried Trump will apply more pressure on Canada once he takes possession of the Oval Office. However, the poll found that 54% are either very concerned or somewhat concerned the pressure will ramp up, and 62% don't trust Trump to not use military force. What do you think? You think they'll use So America weighs in. The majority of American respondents, 77%, said if Trump is serious about joining Canada, then the merger should only happen if Canadians are in favor. 5% said Trump should use military force to achieve the goal. And 1%, so more people said to use the military than economic pressure. 1% said to use economic pressure.
That's just trolls.
So if Canada were to merge with the United States, only 52% of Americans said Canada should enjoy full statehood with citizenship and voting rights. 1/4 Instead, say Canada should be relegated to a reduced status like that of Puerto Rico. I'm not okay with that. The survey also found that American impressions of Canada are largely positive, with 77% of U.S. residents polling having either a very favorable or mostly favorable view of Canada. Canada also had a higher rating than any of the other countries mentioned in the poll. 71% had a positive view of the UK, 50% thought well of Ukraine, and 49% of Mexico. Canadian sentiments towards the U.S. were less favorable. The poll found that only 39% of Canadians had a very favorable or mostly favorable view of Americans, while 55 had either a mostly unfavorable or very unfavorable view. I mean, you motherfuckers got to go down there and visit. I mean, honestly, you guys are too big for your britches.
It's because they're watching their TV.
Yeah, you're watching too much TV. Losers. Okay, let's see what my quote unquote leader has to say about things. Because you can see where this is trending, right?
Oh, no.
Danielle Smith. I had a constructive discussion with my fellow premiers on how best to deal with the threat of tariffs from the incoming U.S. administration.
You're not sharing screen if,
Oops. Danielle Smith on X. We agreed on several strategies, and I look forward to continuing to work with them on this critical issue. However, federal government officials continue to publicly and privately float the idea of cutting off energy supply to the U.S. and imposing export tariffs on Alberta energy and other products to the United States. Until these threats cease, Alberta will not be able to fully support the federal government's plan in dealing with the threatened tariffs. Alberta will simply not agree to export tariffs on our energy or other products, nor do we support a ban on exports of these same products. We will take whatever actions are needed to protect the livelihoods of Albertans from such destructive federal policies. We also urge our entire nation to use this tariff threat as an opportunity to correct the misguided direction of this country and commence multiple infrastructure projects that focus on developing, upgrading, and exporting our oil, gas, and other natural resources.
Wow.
Instead of effectively landlocking them and keeping us fully reliant on one primary customer, which is the U.S., by the way. I will be traveling to Washington, D.C. this week for the inauguration and will be returning to the United States several times over the coming months to meet with U.S. lawmakers and officials to continue to make the case against the imposition of tariffs on Canadian products and to strengthen and grow the trading relationship between our two great and independent nations.
Well, that's pretty well said. I mean, I got to admit that I like that take from her, really. Right?
Yeah.
Really kind of common sense in a lot of ways. I mean, she seems to understand both sides.
Yeah, I think it's all right.
Are you going to read Marty Up North's tweet there?
No, I don't know how I ended up there. Yeah, especially when you got other guys like I think Ford said he will restrict electricity exports to the U.S. and ban American-made alcohol if Trump applies tariffs. Then shortly after that, he said tariffs from the U.S. could cost up to 500,000 Ontario jobs. Oops. You might want to talk that down. So I'll keep going as long as I'm here. I might as well go. How about this? What do you think about this? We see
was an announcement that appears to have blindsided Ontario's colleges and universities. The number of international students in 2025 will be reduced by 10%, at a time when post-secondary institutions were already dealing with a 35% reduction.
We've definitely seen the impact of that. So just as an example, September of this past year, the international student enrollment at Ontario colleges is about half of what it was in September of last year.
The drop in enrollment presents a number of challenges. First, financial. Studies found colleges relied on international students as a source of revenue to make up for funding deficits from the Ford government. Another drop means another financial dip.
Part of the challenge right now
is the problem.
To figure out what are going to be the financial implications is just that the policy just keeps changing. and things just sort of keep coming that require us to redo the numbers in real time.
Earlier this year,
I mean, it just shows you, eh? Just stop for a second. It just shows you, right? This is the government can never make things work, right? You shouldn't be relying on some unsustainable fucking pie in the sky program. How are you relying on that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we need to play the rest. I just thought it was interesting that's down 50% in 1 year. 50%.
I don't understand how it is, even, to be honest with you. Like, because people aren't going to school anymore, or because they're just fed up with school. I mean, is there some sort of like negative pressure about that now? That's like, you know, is there a vacuum there? Because people are realizing that all these like
students.
What?
It's all foreign students.
Well, yeah, but they're all here. They haven't. It hasn't come down that much.
So
it hasn't come down that much for them to be down that much. Like what? It doesn't just the tap doesn't get turned off like that.
I don't think they were ever planning on going to school.
Well, there you go. Exactly. Right.
Nearly
I mean,
50,000 foreign students listed as no-shows by Canadian schools.
What a shocker! Right? What a shocker!
Almost 20,000 students from India were reported as non-compliant with their student visas and not attending schools where they were meant to be studying. People walk past banners inviting students to study in Canada and other places abroad. Oh, that's the picture. Never mind. Close to 50,000 international students who received study permits to come to Canada were reported as no-shows at the colleges and universities where they were supposed to be taking their courses, according to government figures for 2 months last spring. Numbers obtained by the Globe and Mail show that the non-compliant students made up 7% of the total number of international students recorded by Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. Universities and colleges are required by the Immigration Department to report twice a year on whether international students are enrolled and going to class in compliance with their study permits. The International Student Compliance Regime, implemented in 2014, was designed to help spot bogus students. And they're not doing a very good job.
I can't believe they use bogus as a term.
Look at this.
Well, why would you call your organization
listen, they break it down by race. So we got Indians, 327,000 compliant, 19,000 non-compliant.
No. You got to look at the compliant percentage, probably, right? That's fair. Right?
Well, I know I want to go with the numbers, so we get it.
China's like 93%.
No, that's their compliancy rate.
Yeah. You got to go for that.
They're good little Chinamen. They're doing what they're supposed to be. The Indians are only 91% compliant. The Nigerians,
Ghana's not doing
Ghana are fucking 67%. The Congos are 65%. The Rwanda's 50%. Cameroon 76%. I mean, there's a pattern here. I'm not allowed to say what the pattern is because we'll get kicked off of everything. But you know, you could do your own homework and figure out some patterning there. Anyway, so totals 49,676, 19,000 from India, 4,000 from China, 4,000 from Nigeria, 3,000 from Ghana, Iran. It's not good. So the best ones do seem to be the Pakistanis, even coming in at the pack rats at 91%, and matching with the Indians. I can't believe they.
I mean, overall, it's pretty good. Overall, it's 90%.
Overall, it's not bad, but
it's just there's so many that 50,000.
If we're gonna list the problem countries, we got Jordan, Cameroon, Algeria, Rwanda, Congo, Ghana. Those are the worst ones. Nigerians not great either. The problem with the Nigerians is there's just a lot of them compared to the other places, so it's a higher number. And that's the problem with the Indians too. I mean, they're coming in at 91.1%, but there's 327,000 of them. So even the 9% that aren't going equates to 20,000 people.
Yeah.
Anyway, we better get off this before we get called racist.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can't be racist, so that's good news.
It helps.
So, and we're on the ancestral lands of Darren's ancestors.
I'm on my ancestral land. I acknowledge my own shit.
Well, let's just see something. I mean, man, I got so many ways I could go here on this, but let's do this one here.
Yeah, at least two ways you go.
Yeah. So this is This is everybody lining up. What do you think these people are lining up for? This is a good way to do it. So there's like what 500 people in a lineup in the snow. It's snowing. Everybody's got.
It's insane. This is just not what the medical
doctor.
Yeah, they're in line for a doctor.
Is supposed to be like in Ontario.
Got here about 5:30 and been on the Healthcare Connect list for about 10 years now.
He's got that Canadian accent. I've been here since about 5:30.
Is that the same hillbilly accent that I have?
He's got, he's been on the thing for 10 years.
Longer than that. So kind of a strange way to have people sign up for a doctor, but hopefully I get one.
So this is in Ontario. This is how desperate people are in Canada to find a family doctor. A physician in Brockton, Ontario, starting his new practice, said he would take 500 new patients in. Hundreds lined up in the freezing cold in hopes of signing up. What a disaster. So can I just play you now these can I just get, this is the bitch session now, and I don't want to be focusing on this negative stuff. So this is not like, this isn't because we're trying to be negative or anything, but this is when people are like saying, well, why, how can you not fight for your country? This and that. Like, here's some examples of what people are dealing with in Canada, how far it's fallen in 9 years. And I don't even want to become political because I don't really trust that the right's going to fix it either. I mean, I think we're just.
For the record, not my country. That's why I don't have to be.
What do you mean?
I'm not a Canadian.
Because you're an Indian?
I am under occupation.
You're under occupation. So, well, I don't want to get into, I'm not going to get into my negative attitude about this whole thing. So this is from Mrs. Effie. Living in the greater Toronto area in Ontario is a nightmare. Traffic is out of control. Infrastructure is falling apart. Certain parts of the city are overrun by homelessness. Migrants have taken over. Our culture has been devastated. There's garbage everywhere. Crime is rampant and life is unaffordable. Our country does not resemble the Canada I grew up in. And then, they're talking about how Toronto compares to other prominent cities. Toronto citizens just voted for, and the kicker is, these are some comments. Toronto citizens just voted for a mayor who is a raving communist. Chef kiss. Trish Wood says, don't forget that the province has handed the city over to builders and there's an ugly, noisy, pointless project going up on every corner. We can't even enjoy our own homes. Stores are closing. Parking is taken over by workers' pickup trucks. Toronto is a dead city. Bangkok. That's one of my favorite songs.
I bet.
Is Bangkok without good food. Our mayor is a communist. Yep, all the condos going up, take away from the city. There's barely any sunshine. The buildings cast so much shade, not to mention it's overcrowded. Toronto used to be safe and clean. There was little homelessness and it was drug-free. I used to be so proud. Now I dread going there. So, yeah, they're just people complaining, that this is not what we want. So let's go on to the next one. It gets pretty bad here. How many people are in this boat? This is from Market Mania. The bleak reality of the Toronto job market, very sad. Unemployed, borderline suicidal. I can't take it anymore. Honestly, I just want my story to be heard at least by someone before things get any worse. In high school, no, for my entire life, I was taught, get a good education and you will get a good job. But no one told me what courses to do specific. Well, this is, there's got to be some responsibility here as well, but what courses to do specifically. So graduated in 2022 with bachelor's in sociology. Big mistake. There's no one that will hire me for no job because I'm not specifically trained in that area. I've applied to hundreds of jobs in the GTA, hundreds, not a single callback. Maxed out credit cards to pay rent and groceries. I'm surviving off the government like some type of leech. The stares from my family are getting unbearable at this point. They think I'm in my room playing games all day and that I won't go out and find work. But what they don't understand is no one is accepting walk-in resumes anymore. I've applied to City of Toronto jobs. I've spoken to social workers, recruitment agencies. I tried Indeed, Robert Half, LinkedIn. What, Robert Half? I don't know what that is. LinkedIn, I even asked ChatGPT for places to work at based on my resume. Didn't work. All the other job places say the same thing over and over again. Let's fix your resume. Like I haven't done that 1,000, 10,000 times already. I got so desperate, I even messaged the Premier Doug Ford, to which he sent me links to places to apply for jobs I've already applied for. I'm at the end of my rope, and I can only see two ways out. Either I commit some type of crime for money, or two, just end it all. Get a trade, buy, pick up these are some comments here. Buy, pick up a lawnmower and start your own business. Get an entry-level job at a big box store and grind your way up the ladder. No, this is including the big box stores, people. Like this is, I know people that are looking for jobs, and you can't do what we used to do, man. In the 80s, we used to go into the store with a resume. I'd follow up every week. Hey, I really want this job. They'd see how eager you were to work. Like that was part of the whole process, right? They see you face to face, you hand it in physically to them. Nowadays, you're going through these agencies, and you have to there's no way you can sort of like personalize your resume. You fill out these applications online. It's all online. No callbacks. You can't deliver stuff in person. I wouldn't want to be in this situation being this age. I mean, my goal is just to never have to use a resume again. I mean, that's kind of the way I roll with it. Like, we're going to do all this, and I'm not going to have to apply for a job ever again. And then here's another one here, the Canadian Dream. Just to give everybody an idea of what's happening. This is from Market Mania again. Has now become a nightmare for many people. I'm so tired of living. It's literally just chasing money to meet basic needs at this point. I have a degree, but can barely afford my 1-bedroom apartment. I just want a small backyard and 2 dogs. That's not a lot to ask for. I can't afford that at all. I'm tired of not eating well, not doing anything extra fun, paying for insurance I don't believe in, paying taxes for less healthcare, paying taxes to fund wars, working 2 jobs to get ahead, but then burning out worse. So just a couple examples of people bitching about, so get off your ass and fight for your country, sir. like what are people supposed to do? I mean, that's the problem. We're a big spread out country, right? It's not like you can just all walk down to Champs-Élysées in Paris and storm it like they do in France.
No, but I mean, it's starting to tear itself apart. I mean, it's funny because I did a segment on this show about how Canada could fail like a year ago. And who would have thought, it seemed like a far-fetched plan even then. And now it's like closer than ever.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, why did you say how could it fail back then?
I don't know. I just played a video about it on this show.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Video I had found. But the funny thing was that a bunch of us ended up joining the States in the video. So I could follow that up with this. I got this and then another kind of funny one, and then 3 more quick ones. Is where I'm at. So Canadians' financial stress ramping up despite interest rate cuts. Half of Canadians are $200 or less away from being unable to cover their monthly bills and debt payments, according to
that was the other one I saw.
Limited's quarterly report on consumer debt. Despite interest rates decreasing, people are still concerned. The survey found fewer Canadians expect their debt situation to improve in the coming year, while a growing number believe it will worsen. More than half said they don't think they will be able to cover all their living and family expenses in the next year without accruing more debt. MNP's Consumer Debt Index, which measures Canadians' attitudes towards their debt and their ability to pay their bills, dropped to the second lowest level since it began tracking in 2017. Meanwhile, Canadians' personal debt rating hit an all-time low. A third of respondents said they're insolvent, with women more likely than men to be $200 away from insolvency. I think that they just have so much debt and it's becoming harder to service. Canada is one of the highest of all the Western nations in the world for the debt ratio. The volume of debt is catching up to people. Canadians are also feeling job anxiety, with 2 in 5 respondents worried someone in their household could lose their job. Bayesian said that figure is the highest it's ever been in the history of the report. The overall trend in Canada's unemployment rate has been steadily rising, despite a slight dip in December to 6.7%. Bayesian said people's perception of their financial situation is usually based on what's immediately pressuring them. While economic indicators or interest rate changes take a bit of time to show their effects on daily life, they can still also affect consumers' perceptions. So we're still having a growing number of people anticipating that their financial situation will worsen. The survey was conducted between December 6th and 17th with a sample of 2,003 Canadians.
That's a pretty good sample. I mean, I don't think that these rate cuts just make all this inflation go away, like go back down.
Yeah, it don't matter, because if you fucking had to re-sign your mortgage in that time, you got to wait 5 years before you get to re-sign it again. So
I have an email here that I should have read. This is just back in the 51st state talk. Good day, no read. Good day. I've been a long time free thinker, or what the media labels us conspiracy theorist or wacko. I think I've talked to you before about being skeptical about almost every situation that occurs daily. We are probably living in a simulation. I have listened to you guys mostly outlawed episodes because I love the Canadian news and hearing your takes and opinions. I don't always agree with your opinions, but hey, that's how the world works. I got into the North America Union ideas back in 2007. Harper was supposed to do it, as he had a closed-door talk, say, in 2008, with USA Bush and the Mexico president. This is the beginning of the North American Union. They wanted to build a road from Manitoba, I remember this, straight down to Mexico. Security and Prosperity Partnership of NA. So now the conservatives come back. Will that continue? Here are some random links, and he sends a link, a couple links. Joint statement, President Bush and Prime Minister Harper and the George Bush White House archives. Just an idea. Love the show, Wes. Well, thanks, Wes. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that's why there's a lot of stuff going around about that's. They've been planning this for such a long time. But I mean, honestly, it's hard for me not to think it's a good idea right now.
yeah, I know what you mean.
And just like, can't we just be our own little North American world and then just not really worry about everything else? Like, control it a little bit more. But
well, the thing I get sick of is
like
about it being globalization when we're tied to the fucking king of England.
Right.
So we'd just be finding a new abusive partner. It's like remarrying.
Yeah.
You know, the second one's usually better. Anyway, did you see this picture of Carney and Maxwell?
Yeah.
You did? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, second from left, with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, she got around though. I mean, she was getting pictures with all them people. I mean,
on purpose, you don't like it.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's a socialite too, right? I mean, I just don't like to make those kind of connections unless we see more evidence. I mean,
is there a Graham Dunlop connection coming up we got to worry about? Did you get your picture?
Not at all. No, not at all.
Hey, man, give me a chance.
My closet is clear.
Class action lawsuit accuses Loblaws, Walmart, and Sobeys of selling underweight meat.
What?
A proposed class action lawsuit launched in British Columbia alleges Loblaws, Walmart, and Sobeys misrepresented the weight of meat products by including the weight of packaging in calculating prices.
Oh my God. No way. What, the styrofoam package?
Yeah. The lawsuit alleges grocers are using deceptive means that violate federal and provincial regulations by including packaging weight in the price of raw and cooked meat products that are sold by weight. Canadians have been regularly overpaying for their meat products.
Oh, I just think that's getting. I mean, I don't know, dude. That's just
nitpicking.
What do you? I think that's nitpicking a bit. What you can't even weigh. You put a styrofoam thing on a scale and it doesn't even weigh anything. I mean, come on.
Okay, what about if it was weed or something or gold? Then you'd worry about it.
Well, shrinkflation. I don't know.
Speaking of which, I don't. We should give a shout out to what's his name because he's a listener of this show. So, Ash. Corey Ash.
Yeah, thanks, Corey.
So he gave us an extra donation for the show, which you guys can all do. There's a donation on the thing. So automakers push back on electric vehicle sales mandate as the incentives are halted. Why do you think that could be?
The Trump effect?
The program ran out of money.
Dude, the more they get involved, the worse it all gets. It's just infuriating.
Oops.
Can I Can I do something before?
Not yet.
Oh, sorry.
The federal government has paused an incentive program that offered Canadian rebates of up to $5,000 when buying or leasing electric vehicles. In an update on its website, Transport Canada says initiatives for zero emission vehicles has been paused as the funds have been fully committed. So we're out of money for that.
So then again, so now this is all half done, right? Nothing's efficient. What a waste it is. If you can't even complete a project and you're stuck halfway through, don't get involved in the first place. These subsidies they shouldn't be allowed. This is ridiculous. So here's a problem that we're having.
Right.
Vancouver, Surrey, British Columbia has a huge issue with people dumping rubbish everywhere. So I mean, I'm not trying to make this about like immigrants or racism or anything like that, but it's an interesting thing I'm seeing happen everywhere. Just how many calls do you think Vancouver gets about illegal dumps? Let's say a year. So Vancouver, Lower Mainland, like that whole area, for people
300 a day.
300 a day. What would that be per year? Let me just do a quick calculation.
That'd be 9,000 a year.
9,000 a year. Okay.
300
more. A day. 300 a day. That's quite a bit. Just Vancouver. Just Vancouver has over 18,000 calls for authorities to come clean messes up every year now.
That's double what I thought.
What the fuck kind of people would rather live in filth than spend $20 in 30 minutes taking things to, again, this thing changes over to the dump. So, I mean, this is a problem, them charging us for all this stuff too, right? We pay taxes to get our garbage taken away, right? I get one can every 2 weeks, right, of garbage. It's different than Alberta and BC with all their recycling programs and all that. But anything over and above that, like rental stuff, like if you're renting a house, I mean, they charge you a fortune to get rid of it.
Really? In Saskatchewan?
Well, no, even in, I'm sure in other provinces too. You pay for you go to the dump, you have to pay for it.
It's county.
It's county and where you are?
Well, there's in Alberta, it'd be by the county. I don't pay for the dump. My dump is free no matter what I bring there. I brought my own.
That's fantastic. So that is great. I mean, I honestly don't think. When I went to the dump in Calgary, I had to pay. So that's why you're saying it's because that's why you're saying it's well. So it's not an Alberta thing. It's a county in Alberta.
It's a county. It's a county. Okay. It's Calgary has it's dump. So it'd be I'm guessing it's municipal until a certain level.
Okay. Yeah. But that's great. I mean, so I have to pay extra money, right? For like loads of stuff going to the dump, like just trying to clean up stuff. You just pay. So you get sick of fucking paying to clean up, right? No wonder why people are dumping stuff everywhere. Because some of these places charge you a fortune to dump, to get rid of stuff. That, don't you see that being a problem too? Like we pay taxes already. Like you shouldn't have to pay to also get rid of garbage to keep your place clean.
I agree.
Especially with rental stuff, like a fridge cost me $50, I think, to get rid of. Like,
oh yeah, I even asked Buddy the other day, and he said that I can even bring my shitty old treadmill in there. It's like, but if you come on a Saturday, I won't be able to help you unload it.
Right. Well, that's you have a place that's right near your house that seems very, very good for that kind of stuff. Okay, ready to watch this? Get this. This is somebody getting caught in here.
Pick up your trash.
So this is a guy that you can just hear the truck stopping ahead of another truck on the road for all the audio listeners. Didn't mean to rewind that.
Pick up your trash. Pick up your trash. This is my property. Pick up your trash you just dumped. Pick it up. This is my fucking property. Pick it the fuck up. I don't give a shit. It's
the guy's saying it's one door. It's just a door.
You people that are involved in putting all this fucking trash all over my shit. This is you, bub. Got your fake ass license plate. Got you on there. Now take your shit and get it off my property. I don't give a shit. Look at all the trash I see on my property. How do I know? How do I know? How do I know? There's literally dumpsters underneath the freeway right over there. Okay, I understand that.
So this guy, he's caught a couple different people just dumping stuff on his yard, right? Because they charge people to get rid of stuff. And it's easy to say, oh, yeah, just pay 20 or 30 bucks. But I mean, like right now, I don't know. People can't afford 20 or 30 bucks to get rid of stuff.
No, yeah, I'm surprised. I'm actually quite surprised that it's not free for you.
Yeah.
I'm baffled that in your little, so you have to go all the way to, are you going to the Saskatoon dump?
No. We have a little dump here in the town.
And they're charging you for that one, even that much?
Dude, everything that goes there is money, right? Because we only get because we're over our can every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's too bad. So I thought maybe it was just because I have a rural address, but I definitely know that there's people from Saskatchewan going there too.
I mean,
the rest from the Strathmore going there.
I mean, I kind of understand it, I guess, if you're trying to, cover expenses of it and stuff like that. And the city taxes, the town taxes don't cover it. I mean, I guess, but I just think these things start escalating and they start getting unreasonable, right? $50 to get rid of something. Well, that's too much.
Yeah, that's too much. I agree. Too much.
And then they said, oh, and if it's reno stuff like old drywall, carpets, you have to go to another place and pay more. So that's why this guy drops off a door. Who knows what province or county that was in, but because you got to go to a special dump for renovation garbage, right? Not just household garbage. So, and then pay more for that. So the guys that go to the dump have to hide the reno stuff underneath all the bags and get in and try and throw it into the garbage before they get caught.
That's too bad.
Oh, I guess we should get to the tunneling, the boring thing, eh?
Oh yeah, you never did that yet.
Yeah, I guess I could do it on the second half if you want.
Oh, you might as well do it quick.
Okay. Have you seen that? The video of the sounds coming from underneath? This is just from yesterday.
No, I have no idea. I'm completely.
This is from yesterday. Would you remember when we started the podcast like 10, 12 years ago, all the sounds people were hearing in the skies and all the echoes from underneath it, and they couldn't figure out where all these sounds were coming from? Kind of similar to that. But.
In the field. I have no idea what's going on, but listen to this.
So this is like he's in a field in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky, which will be interesting. I'll show you later. And this is just sounds coming from like underneath this guy's field.
There's something under the ground, and it sounds like it's about to bust out. Holy crap.
Interesting, eh? And then there's another one that's attached to it. Sounds a bit different here. It's a second.
And is it boring? Is that because they're boring under the ground? Is that what?
I think it is, yeah.
Here in the field.
Yeah, it has to be.
Sounds like a train almost going through, but I think it's a boring machine. I mean, some comments are saying it's about 200 feet down. That's what a boring machine sounds like, about 200 feet down.
Where did it say he was?
In Kentucky, which is where all the like that book Edidorpa that I narrated. It's about the caves in Kentucky, right? To lead to the inner earth. Like Kentucky's where all these massive cave systems are.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought for some reason I thought it was NBC, and I was like, huh, we don't. I didn't think we had any boring going on over here, you know?
Yeah. No, let me show you the maps here. So here's tunnels, cave entrances, missing people. I mean, that's people just making comparisons to the missing 411 and all that. But there's caves all over Kentucky, my friend. I've been screaming it for years. There's something they are hiding. They mock us, putting on shows, lights under Louisville, but I assure you there's more down there all over the state. Likely they are making more tunnels for their, what does he say? Oh, their trafficking and all that. So there's the Hollow Earth picture with all the tunnels. And he's like, these comments are basic. Let's kick it up a notch. And then, hey, here's your map. Don't you have that on your wall?
Yeah.
Hey, there's your map. On the Q map, it has boom sounds on it. And then they show
the exact map. I don't have it on the wall anymore.
But yeah, that's good. You don't want to be accused of being a
I don't want to be a Q guy.
So here's look at this boring machine from 1983, dude. This is 40 years old, this one. Look at this, eh? Look at how big it is compared to those people. But there's bigger ones now. China makes them. Guess how wide the China ones are?
200 feet, 100 feet,
45 feet wide. That's pretty wide.
Chicken shit.
And I think they put a whole here, I'll show you a video here from the ones that made the UK. But like, check this out, eh? I wonder if that noise comes from one of these in operation. So that's what people are saying, right? There's this boring one.
We need a boring machine.
Yeah, well, I mean, then I was searching it up, and Elon saying he can bore from Europe to America for 1,000 times less than they're estimating right now. And I'm like, why would you go all the way from Europe to America? Why wouldn't you go from East Coast to West Coast first? Because you've already done it, or like, why? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't that be the number one thing?
Because you could just drive not in a tunnel.
You can't go like maglev speed.
Yeah, you can't go in that tunnel unless you have an electric vehicle either.
Yeah. Okay, here you go. You ready?
So above ground, each TBM will travel between 90 and 150
TBM
each week.
Tunnel boring machine.
Oh, I see.
This is from 12 years ago.
Ending up to within a millimeter
the English Channel
of where it needs to be. The first part of the TBM's work is the tunneling phase. The earth pressure balance TBM has a cutting wheel which is pressed against the tunnel face by hydraulic cylinders. Inside the cutting wheel, the disc cutters and scraping tool loosen the material. If the earth is unstable and to stop the tunnel face collapsing or digging too fast, the TBM uses the soil that has already been dug out by the cutting wheel to support the tunnel face. This creates a stable environment for the tunneling to move forward. The tunnel face is continuously monitored by pressure sensors. They check the turning power of the cutting wheel and the screw conveyor, and they also keep track of the material that's been excavated. The material is then taken away on conveyor belts. Once the tunneling phase is done, the cutting wheel and screw conveyor are stopped and the ring building phase starts. A complete tunnel ring consists of several lining segments made of pre-built reinforced concrete.
Crazy, eh? They just do it all while they're down there doing
These are made in a special factory above ground. They must match the exact size required and are taken into the tunnel on flatbed rail cars. The concrete segments are fed in by the segment feeder and lifted into place using a vacuum. The hydraulic cylinders are temporarily retracted in order to provide enough space for the new segment. The segments are positioned with millimeter precision and held in place by cylinders before being finally bolted into position. The conical keystone is put in from the front to complete the lining ring.
Crazy, eh? I mean, that's pretty, and that's like going back now. That's probably like, some of the first technology that could do something like the channel. I mean, there's probably, more choices than just that one. But then Elon, I mean, who knows what Elon's company can do with their boring machines.
All right, should we get out of here? Head over to the second half of the show.
Yeah, let's do it.
it's not a half, it's an extension on these, but it is a whole extra half on all the interviews we do, of course, which we do weekly as well as these. So you get an extension on these and twice as long on the interview shows that we do. And of course, if you guys want to check all that out, head over to GrimericaOutlawed.ca. That'll have all the ways you can sign up there. It'll also have how you could watch a show. If you're listening to this and you want to watch the clips or you want to see what we're looking at, there's a bunch of different ways. If you sign up for Plus, we'll get you the video link for free anyway. You don't have to worry about that. If you want the video extensions, and it just helps us stay on the thing, it's hard to do this show all the time, so it makes it a lot easier if we have Plus members and supporters that help us keep going with it. So head over to GrimericaOutlawed.ca, do that today, guys, and I'm gonna shut down the streams while we head into the second half.
All right, I got some good news. Yeah, thanks for watching and listening, everybody. I got some good news here from Odessa Orlowitz talking about BC, the one that's like a little bit more kind of woke with the mandates and stuff. The new nonsensical so-called mask mandate in BC